Hey guys, it's Enigma Hood. And today I'm just going to talk about Rodney King. For those who don't know, I mean, it's kind of breaking news right now. Rodney King has died. They're still not exactly sure how he died. He was just found dead in his pool. Initial reports say there is no evidence of any foul play, you know. He probably was intoxicated and was swimming in his pool and drowned. Which is pretty typical of this guy. I mean, he always had problems with alcohol and drugs and things like that. But I don't really want to talk about that too much. I want to talk about this man and what happened in the past, because a lot of people, especially African Americans, do not know who Rodney King is and how significant he is in the fight for civil rights, and especially rights for blacks in America. Even though Rodney King himself is a person of questionable moral character, that's irrelevant. What happened to him was wrong. So, what happened to him? In the early 90s, I believe it was 91 or something, I'm just going based off of memory. I was very young at the time, but even I still remember that this was a big deal. He was in a car with two other individuals, and he was intoxicated. He was swerving around in his car. He was pulled over by some cops. And the other two occupants of his car cooperated with the authorities, and they were not beaten. But Rodney King, you know, he had problems. Okay, he had problems. So he was just kind of being a little belligerent and stuff like that because he was drunk. So the cops proceeded to beat him up. Beat him into a bloody pulp, basically. And this was all caught on some guy's night vision camera, which back in the day was pretty rare. So he was just testing out his night vision camera. He was like in a building nearby, and he saw this, and he decided to capture it on camera. And it was that film that this dude shot, and the dude was white, by the way, that highlighted the despicable nature of the LAPD, where they would actually beat people up unfairly, unjustly. And it resulted in a huge outcry from any decent human being. And they put those officers on trial, and they were all acquitted because the defense attorneys were very skillful in having a change of venue. They changed the venue from LA to Simi Valley, which was predominantly white and pro-cop. And these piece of shit racist hick motherfuckers all acquitted the police officers because they're racist. Well, the people in LA did not stand for this, and they rioted. And this is the best example of what happens when you do not satisfy people's need for revenge. Forget about justice. We're talking about making people suffer who do bad things, like those police officers did. If you do not make them suffer, then people will be outraged and they will riot, and that destabilizes society. That is the reason why we have to satisfy people's need for vengeance. Those police officers deserve to suffer. They did not suffer. People were outraged and they rioted, and people died, unfortunately. Well, the federal government intervened and then charged those police officers again with a different charge of violating Rodney King's civil rights. And this does not fall under the double jeopardy protection, because you can be charged with two different crimes, right? So they were charged with, I don't know, assaulting Rodney King. They were acquitted of that. Then they were charged again with a different charge of violating his civil rights, and two of those police officers were convicted and sentenced to X number of months in prison. Rightfully so. Now, like I said before, you know, Rodney King was not a perfect guy, but that doesn't matter. He had problems. The point was that no human being deserves to be beaten the way that he was. I don't care if he was, you know, drunk and resisting arrest. There were 50 police officers there. They could have all piled on top of him, restrained him, arrested him, put handcuffs on him, and then just put him in the fucking thing. No, what did they do instead? All the police officers stood around, watched what happened, while these police officers beat the fuck out of him. And in my opinion, a racist police officer is better off dead because they are the worst enemy to a minority. A minority's worst enemy is a racist police officer because they have the power to kill you if they feel like it, because they are racist against you and they can drum up all kinds of charges against you. They were, oh, this guy was resisting arrest and he was trying to assault me. I was just protecting myself. He is the worst enemy to you. So that means a police officer that is racist is better off dead because they can do anything to you. They are an enemy. So, in my opinion, those police officers that beat him, they should have been executed, in my opinion. And it's a pity that most African Americans these days, especially the younger African Americans, do not know who Rodney King is and what happened. Because the LA riots that happened in the aftermath of the Rodney King incident were the last great, quote-unquote, great riot in America. And the new generation of people that are growing up in America have grown up in an environment where riots did not, it's just not happening in this country, So they don't really understand what happens when you do not satisfy people's need for vengeance. If you do not, when we have a corruption and we're not punishing people who deserve it, then people will be discontent, they will destabilize society, and then society will then collapse. That is why we have to indulge in satisfying people's need for vengeance. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about. Rodney King is dead. It's a pity. And that's all I have to say. This is Enigma Hood signing off.